At 18, I weighed 340 pounds and I went to jail for complicity to burglary. I was sentenced 2 years. I only went for 8 months.
When Angie J first appeared on My 600-Pound Life, viewers thought they were about to witness another powerful story of redemption. A woman ready to fight for her health and reclaim her life. But what unfolded instead was something no one expected. From explosive arguments to shocking behavior that left even Dr. Now speechless. Angie's journey quickly spiraled out of control. Her episode became one of the most chaotic and talked about in the show's history. So how did a story meant to inspire turn into pure madness? And what really happened behind the scenes with Angie J? Trauma and addiction. Angie J's story begins in a small town, Ohio, where every moment had become a struggle and every day felt like survival. She weighed well over 600 pounds, relying completely on her boyfriend Justin to do almost everything, from cooking her food to helping her move around the house. She wasn't just physically trapped, she was emotionally cornered by years of pain, trauma, and bad habits. When she finally reached out to Dr. Navzaradan, most fans thought it would be the start of a comeback story. But with Angie, things never went as expected. From the very first consultation, the red flags were waving. Dr. Now laid out his usual, brutally honest plan. A strict, high-protein, low-carb diet, total commitment, and accountability for every single pound lost. But instead of accepting responsibility, Angie fired back with excuses. She blamed her size on her childhood, her stress, her relationships, everything but herself. When Dr. Now asked her to lose just 50 pounds before surgery, she brushed it off, convinced that her situation was somehow different. The drive from Ohio to Houston for the program became another battle. Angie claimed she couldn't make the trip without help and expected her family to cover the costs, turning even basic logistics into drama. Once she arrived, it became clear that this wasn't going to be a simple transformation. It was going to be an emotional storm. Angie treated the program more like a personal argument than a second chance at life. Every suggestion from Dr. Now felt like a personal attack, and every weigh-in turned into a confrontation. By the end of her first month, her progress was practically non-existent. Instead of focusing on her health, she focused on proving everyone wrong. She even accused the clinic of lying about her weight and manipulating her numbers, a claim that left viewers stunned and Dr. Now visibly frustrated. "You can't lose weight if you keep lying to yourself," he told her in that calm but cutting tone only he can pull off. But for Angie, it wasn't about truth. It was about control. And as the weeks went by, she became more defiant, more dramatic, and more unpredictable. What was supposed to be her journey to recovery was quickly turning into one of the wildest downward spirals ever seen on the show. The drama that shook Dr. Now. If there's one thing My 600-Pound Life viewers know, it's that Dr. Now has the patience of a saint. He's dealt with denial, tears, and tantrums from countless patients. But Angie J managed to push him to his limit. Every appointment felt less like a medical checkup and more like a verbal boxing match. Instead of owning her choices, Angie came in with a list of complaints. She accused Dr. Now's team of not helping her enough, said the diet was too strict, and even claimed she couldn't buy healthy food because she didn't have enough money. The irony? Viewers later saw her spend that same money on fast food. In one infamous scene, she drove straight to a burger joint after a weigh-in that showed zero progress. Her justification? "I was stressed out." It was that line, "I was stressed," that became her excuse for everything. Whenever Dr. Now confronted her, she turned defensive, Whenever he tried to motivate her, she turned it into a personal insult. Even Justin, her boyfriend, couldn't take it anymore. He was seen visibly exhausted, trying to help her follow the plan, but ending up stuck between her outbursts and Dr. Now's expectations. The tension built week after week. When Angie realized she wasn't getting approved for weight loss surgery, she didn't ask what she could do differently. She blamed everyone else. The producers, the program, the diet, even her own support system. At one point, she stormed out of a medical appointment after being told she hadn't lost enough weight to qualify for surgery. The cameras caught every second. The anger, the shouting, the defiance. It wasn't just drama. It was self-destruction unfolding in real time. Dr. Now tried to reason with her, reminding her that success required honesty, discipline, and effort. But Angie wasn't hearing it. She argued that the scale was wrong, the system was unfair, and that she deserved the surgery anyway. For most patients, that's where a wake-up call happens, when they realize their own actions are holding them back. But for Angie, it only got worse. Her toxic attitude became the centerpiece of her episode. Online discussions exploded. Viewers called her manipulative, lazy, and entitled, while others argued that she was dealing with deep trauma and mental health struggles that the show couldn't fix. Still, Dr. Now didn't give up right away. He offered counseling, extended deadlines, and even a second chance. But every time, Angie found a new excuse or someone else to blame. It was as if she'd rather prove the world wrong than actually get better. The moment that broke everyone's patience came when she claimed Dr. Now was using her for TV ratings, a claim that flipped the narrative entirely. By then, the energy in her episode had shifted. It wasn't about weight loss anymore. It was about watching someone fight against the very people trying to help her. Viewers could feel the frustration through the screen. Dr. Now's tone went from firm to disappointed. You could see it in his face. That look that says, "I've seen hundreds of patients succeed, but you've already decided to fail." And that's when Angie did something that stunned everyone. She decided to leave the program altogether, declaring that she didn't need Dr. Now or his rules. It was the moment fans realized this wasn't going to end like the other stories. Angie wasn't walking toward redemption. She was running straight into disaster. The downfall everyone saw coming. Once Angie walked away from Dr. Now's program, it was like watching a slow-motion car crash. You could see the outcome long before it hit. Without the structure of Houston, the medical supervision, or anyone to hold her accountable, Angie slipped right back into her old ways. The drive-through meals returned, the arguments intensified, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd turn things around began to fade completely. Her updates during the follow-up scenes were hard to watch. She claimed she was doing better, that she was eating healthy, but the truth was written all over her face. She wasn't. Her weight either stayed the same or crept higher. And the sparkle of motivation that once flickered early in her journey was gone. Instead, what viewers saw was bitterness. Angie didn't talk about changing her habits. She talked about how the show set her up to fail. On social media, her attitude didn't improve either. She went on rants defending her actions and blasting the show, calling out Dr. Now and even her critics. Instead of taking accountability, she built an online persona that seemed to thrive on controversy. Fans who initially sympathized with her story quickly turned away, saying they couldn't watch her self-destruct any longer. But behind the anger and drama, there was something undeniably sad about it all. It was clear Angie wasn't just fighting Dr. Now, she was fighting her own pain. Years of trauma, addiction, and disappointment had built the walls so thick that no amount of tough love could break through. Her story exposed a deeper truth about the show itself. Not every participant is ready to change, and not every story ends in victory. Even Dr. Now, known for his no-nonsense approach, looked defeated by the end of her episode. He told the cameras, if the patient doesn't want to help themselves, there's nothing we can do. It wasn't anger, it was resignation. Angie had become a case study in self-sabotage. Then came the follow-up updates that shocked fans even more. Angie admitted she was struggling financially and emotionally. Her health was still poor, and she claimed she couldn't afford to continue her treatment. Dr. Now's clinic had given her every opportunity, but Angie walked away from all of it. Her defiance, once almost entertaining, now felt tragic. By this point, viewers didn't see her as a villain, they saw her as a warning. She showed what happens when denial and pride collide head-on with reality. Where other participants found humility and growth, Angie doubled down on blame and resentment. And in doing so, she etched her name into My 600-Pound Life history, not as an inspiration, but as one of the show's most chaotic and self-destructive stories ever told. And yet the most haunting part wasn't her weight. It was how she burned every bridge around her. Family, doctors, supporters. Justin, her boyfriend, eventually drifted away too, emotionally and physically exhausted. By the time her episode faded to black, it wasn't clear what future Angie had left. What was meant to be a story about transformation had turned into a cautionary tale about denial and the cost of refusing to face the truth. But even then, fans couldn't stop talking about her. Because behind the outrageous behavior and endless drama, there was a glimpse, just a glimpse, of someone who might have made it if she'd only stopped fighting everyone trying to help her. Fame, failure, and fallout. Angie J's story didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. In some ways, that's when it truly began. After her episode aired, she became one of the most talked about names in My 600-Pound Life history. Not because she lost a dramatic amount of weight or found redemption, but because her episode became the textbook definition of how badly things can go when self-awareness meets denial. Social media lit up. Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and YouTube commentators couldn't stop dissecting her every move. Some called her the most ungrateful patient ever. Others felt pity, believing she was battling deeper emotional pain that no diet could fix. Either way, Angie became unforgettable, a story of drama, denial, and defiance that kept audiences talking long after the credits rolled. At first, she leaned into her newfound fame. She went live on Facebook, defended herself in comments, and accused the show of editing her to look bad. According to Angie, producers wanted a villain, and she was their target. But fans weren't buying it. The clips didn't lie. Viewers had seen her screaming at Dr. Now, breaking her diet, and storming out of appointments. Editing couldn't manufacture that level of chaos. Instead of rebuilding her image, Angie's public posts made things worse. Every time she tried to set the record straight, she ended up reigniting old arguments. Her tone was bitter, her defenses circular, and her critics relentless. The more she talked, the more people saw the same Angie they'd met on TV, defensive, angry, and unwilling to take responsibility. Over time, her online activity painted a sad picture. She revealed she was still struggling with money and health, even starting a GoFundMe to help cover expenses. But after everything, few people trusted her intentions. Her credibility had crumbled, not because of the show, but because she never showed signs of real change. Behind the chaos, though, there was tragedy. Angie wasn't just a scumbag, as some harsh fans labeled her. She was someone trapped in her own pain. Her episode exposed how emotional trauma, addiction, and pride can collide into something destructive. Dr. Now's tough love worked for many, but for Angie, it only triggered more resistance. Instead of hearing help, she heard judgment, and instead of fighting for her life, she fought the people trying to save it. By the time the follow-up came around, not much had changed. Angie insisted she was doing fine, but it was clear she hadn't made progress. Her body was weaker, her tone more bitter, her spirit dimmer. Dr. Now, usually calm and steady, looked exhausted by the case. When he said, "If she doesn't want to help herself, I can't do anything," it landed like a gut punch. Not just to viewers, but to anyone who'd ever wanted to see her succeed. Angie's downfall became one of the show's defining cautionary tales. She proved that surgery alone isn't the answer. The real battle is mental. Without accountability, discipline, and self-awareness, no operation can change a person's life. And while other patients became symbols of triumph, Angie became a reminder of what happens when denial wins. Even years later, her name still surfaces whenever fans talk about the show's most explosive episodes. She didn't just leave a mark, she left a warning. Her story taught viewers that change isn't something you can fake for the camera. It has to come from within, and Angie never reached that point. In the end, Angie J's legacy isn't one of transformation, but of turbulence. She showed how fame, pain, and defiance can collide to create one unforgettable television moment. Some viewers still hope she found peace off-screen. Others simply remember her as the woman who had every chance to change and threw it all away. Angie J's story on My 600-Pound Life remains one of the wildest, most chaotic roller coasters the show has ever aired. It started with hope, a woman desperate for a second chance, and ended with heartbreak, denial, and one unforgettable crash. She didn't just challenge Dr. Now's patience. She redefined what failure on the show could look like. But behind all the shouting and drama was a harsh truth. No one can save you if you don't want to save yourself. Her episode wasn't a story of transformation. It was a mirror held up to every person who's ever wanted change without doing the work. Whether you see Angie as a villain or a victim, one thing is certain: her legacy is unforgettable. Because sometimes the most shocking part of My 600-Pound Life isn't how much weight people lose, but how far they'll go to avoid facing the truth.